Hello everybody, welcome to another episode from Ampro Engineering, and this time I've got something for the CW01 chassis. Here's my Midnight Pumpkin. As you can see, it's still wearing the body from my suspension testing, as I am still doing a lot of testing on this suspension here. All is well in my book. I mean, well, the body's not doing so well, but everything else is fine. This upgrade is kind of an interesting one here because it's not one that I ever cared for until the day I found out that I kind of liked them. So this is a lower shock mounting point for the CW01 chassis. A little blurry. Okay, there it is. This is a very straightforward installation requiring zero modification, and as you can see, it is designed to work with the kit shocks, which in my experience tend to be the hardest to install in other applications, primarily because the base of the shock is very short and tends to interfere with things. So this model is installed. I'm going to get out the Lunchbox and install it on that guy. This is what you're going to receive. I just ordered this from Shapeways, so I've actually yet to open it. So you'll get 3 pieces, and as usual, they are bonded together with this central link here. As I mentioned previously, this helps to keep things sorted when they are being processed. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these. This is a very small link. Originally, I was making these around 2 millimeters. This one here is just over 1 millimeter thick. The thicker that I make them, the more expensive they are for you. Therefore, the smaller I can get away with without Shapeways hollering at me, you know, that's what I'll do. So these are the 3 pieces that you're going to get. Can I zoom? There we go. All right, again, this is going to be a zero modification deal, as in you're not going to have to make any kind of cuts or add holes to your existing chassis. I'm going to grab the Lunchbox and let's put these together. So the Lunchbox is here, and because, I don't know if you, some of you out there do recall the video where I added lighting to the Lunchbox here. These are all fully operational lenses. I really don't feel like taking the body off. So what I'm going to do instead is just pull the back tires off, and you know, I want to see if I am able to install these with as little, you know, interfering the car as possible. I'm kind of curious. I think that shouldn't be a problem. So let's go ahead and pull the back tires off and prep these parts. So we are ready to install these parts, and I apologize for the Lunchbox being a little dusty, but I drove this car yesterday, so I mean, I drive my cars quite heavily, so really nothing I own is very shiny underneath. They have all got a little bit of a coat of dust on them. So we will begin with this center brace here. What I want to point out is that due to the 3D printing process, these holes are all plugged. Now the holes exist, there's just residue inside there, so what you do not want to do is try and thread into them. They're not gonna be happy about that. This is a 2.5 millimeter bit. I bought one of these very inexpensive kits here on eBay. This was like $3 shipped. You can see that on top they have the metric and standard equivalents. And I mean, they're definitely not good for hard materials, but for what we're working with here, they're going to be perfect. I'm just going to drill the powder out, and the drill will come to a hard stop. So just the powder out, same thing here. Okay, so all cleaned out. You can kind of see here what has come out of them. So just some residue powder. That's all it is from the printing process. This will be installed in this orientation here. If you flip this around, you're going to see that I have these little holes, and what these are for are these little guys. So these are just little exhaust tips, nothing more. I shot them with a coat of chrome. They've been kind of in the drawer for a while, so they've taken a little bit of a beating. Basically, you will install that there, put a dab of glue inside the holes, push that right, and of course I've not got any glue in there. And make sure you don't force these, because these are a very hard plastic, so this will crack. So if it doesn't quite fit, just, you know, use the razor blade and or X-Acto knife and kind of clean the hole out as well. And what you're going to get is this little, you know, dual exhaust look. And I've got this set up for this shock mount. I've got it set up for the, I think I've got it for the Rising Fighter as well. I don't think that I have this functionality on the Super Hornet or the regular Hornet, but this is, you know, it's kind of goofy. I just thought it was kind of interesting. With that said, you probably want to hide these holes so this goes facing inward. Since we've drilled out these holes, I'm going to prep this by removing this shock mount here since we no longer need it, and then we can slide over the brace. So we'll have to take the hub off, and on my Lunchbox I have a through-all machine screw here because this is kind of an interesting Lunchbox. This thing is made completely from scraps of my Midnight Pumpkin, as well as one of my friend's Lunchboxes. When I restored the two, this thing was all just made up of junk, and I looked in my drawer and I said, boy, if I have some super glue and some styrene, and I can put this thing back together. So that's what I did. All right, once this piece is off here, we're going to take this piece. This hump is where the shock is going to screw into, and this little boss here kind of corresponds to the one on the stock piece. So this will slide right over the axle, and yeah, I can't barely see it there, but that, you can see those two are lining up nicely. We'll take this factory screw here and always back thread until it drops and then screw it in. Okay, and snug enough. So for the top piece here, originally you would use, for this piece here, for this piece you would have used a self-tapping screw. That is no longer the case. I did not want to rely on a self-tapping screw in the 3D printed plastic, so you are going to have to use a machine Tamiya screw here and a nut on the rear side. I should point this out as well. I use all stock Tamiya hardware, so there's a little, if I can get it out of there, this little brass piece here. The point to have this installed is to prevent binding on the shock when you tighten it up. So with this installed, it is at just over 12 millimeters. Tamiya makes a 16 millimeter screw that will work perfectly. I am going to screw that right in there. On the back, we'll just snug this up. Okay, and then our trusty Tamiya tool, and when it stops, it's done. So there we have it. Before you install the other one, we cannot forget to put this in between, so let's do that next. I'm going to pull this side off and I will come back when it's all done. I've got the other bracket just kind of floating in space now, and we will install our center brace right there and right there. Squeeze them together. And there we have it. At this point here, we can go ahead and finish the assembly here. So I've got the driver's side completely buttoned up. Now we will take some standard Tamiya self-tapping screws. These are 12 millimeter, and we'll go ahead and just thread these in. Now to install this, I highly recommend some Tamiya 1/2 millimeter thick washers. These are the washers, oop, that's the wrong screw. These are the washers that come with every single Tamiya kit that I have ever seen. So I very much recommend these here. It helps to redistribute the load when you are threading these in. So let's go ahead and get that done. So these are 2.5 millimeter holes that we drilled. These screws here are about 2.8 millimeters in diameter. They will tighten up nice and snug, but when the screwdriver stops, do not try and torque these down. This nylon bites very nice, and what you do not want to do is strip these out. It also will not back out. So there we go, it's stopped. It won't back out, so it's not like you have to torque them down like you're working with metal on metal or something of that nature. All right, last bit here. All right, and that's it. At this point here, we can reassemble the rear axle. put our tires back on and see how the suspension works. Tires are back installed and it's done. I mean, it's a really simple installation. What I really like about it is that the clearance now between the shock and the motor is significantly higher. It always annoyed me how close the shock was to the motor. The center brace that I created for the CW01 chassis, which prevents the flex of the transmission, does prevent the motor from hitting the shock, but it's still like 1.5 millimeters of clearance. This makes me feel a lot more comfortable, especially if you're running like a larger diameter shock. So it does. Let's make sure that we do in fact have all of our clearance still. Let's go all the way right, all the way left. Okay, and I did mention this is compatible with the AmPro center brace here. Okay, so we're not going to have that flexing of the transmission, but we will have 100% articulation of the transmission with none of that irritating slap. Shocks are working well. And there we have it. There is one shock mounting point on this brace, and I assume that the first question you're going to ask is, why? Why did you do that? Shouldn't there be many points to mount the shock? And yeah, I suppose if this were a race car, this is a Midnight Pumpkin, or a Lunchbox, or a Unimog. I like to design my products in such a way that makes it look like Tamiya designed it. If Tamiya had made this piece, which they did for the Super Hornet, they would have one mounting point. If you want multiple mounting points, this is the wrong product for you. There's no way to add additional mounting points to this brace. It simply isn't going to work. There are a couple of companies out there that make very nice aluminum ones. If you want multiple mounting points, that is for you. In terms of durability, this is a very low impact piece in that it's not really susceptible to much impact like the front suspension is. Still, as I always mention, these are going to be for light runners. Okay, if you're going to be bashing the heck out of these things, I do not recommend these 3D printed parts, because although they are incredibly durable, the way that I have used them, I cannot say the same if you're going to be running a hot modified motor or some kind of a high-speed brushless setup. I can only suggest that the box stock motor, a upgraded stock motor, or a mild, possibly a very mild modified motor, be used with these rear components as well as the front suspension here. And again, you know, I make no claim that these are going to be indestructible. Can they break? Absolutely. If you have any concern about their integrity, or you do really beat on these cars, I must really recommend that you stick with the stock components. Again, for me, they've been incredibly good, but you know, we all have different driving styles, and I don't want anybody to be upset. I went ahead and tossed the little exhaust tips in there because I think it's fun. They're just sitting there. I haven't glued them. I don't know if I'm putting them in this one or the Midnight Pumpkin. I haven't quite figured that out yet. Well, that wraps this installation up. I've had a lot of people ask me for this. In fact, I've had a lot of people modify my Hornet one for the Lunchbox. And you know, if you're going to buy a custom piece, it might as well be a custom piece for your vehicle. And that's kind of what led me to make this piece. Please subscribe. I've got a lot more weird nonsense coming up, but I've also got something really cool that is not necessarily like me. Here is a little sneak peek at my upgrade to the Tamiya high lift chassis. Anybody that owns this knows probably one of the worst aspects of this vehicle is the incredibly low ground clearance of the transfer case. What I've done here is created a few brackets that lift the transmission nearly 22 millimeters off of its original location. If you can see it from here. Here we go. So it's much higher. In fact, you know, I have no wheels on this car. The original placement of this transmission was right here if it had wheels. So I mean, it was super low to the ground. If you've got some tires on the truck, you're looking at right about here with a stock tire. So it really raises it up. The problem with that modification is The reason Tamiya had it so low was because the motor was originally placed right here. Raising the transmission up now puts the motor into contact with the body. So the solution for that is to move it. I have seen a couple of different solutions to this. One of them that I keep hearing about is some kind of side mount motor. I've never seen that. I'd love to see it. But I like to keep as much Tamiya component as possible. So this upgrade will allow you to keep this plate here. You are going to have to cut out quite a bit to actually get this to fit. But the plate is going to stay, which is how you mount the body. The servo is still here, so there's no interference with the servo. That's kind of nice. And the motor is kind of my favorite. It went from being right here to going on the front side and beneath the spur gear. I'm not going to zoom in because you'll see it when I'm actually got the production piece here. It's beneath the spur, and it even has a little access point here to adjust the slipper clutch on this car. And the best part here is that it's completely enclosed. There's no way to actually get gravel or sand or whatever into the enclosure. It's completely sealed off. But that is not all. Although the motor is now in a more accurate location in terms of realism, you know, this Tamiya Toyota truck or the Ford F-350 or even the Tundra would actually have the motor in the front. They don't have an electric motor in the front. They've got something different. So I've got something awesome coming out for this truck. Lastly, I did want to mention, I know you all know about the double wishbone rear suspension and the other upgrades on Project Mud Blaster, but I'm actually not here to talk about anything that I made. I'm here to talk about something that will transform this truck. I mean, even more transforming than changing the rear suspension or no. I have something amazing to review soon. I can't quite talk about it. It's not ready yet. I will be receiving a prototype shortly, but when this comes out, I'm not messing around. You've got to order them. Not just because they're going to be amazing, but because if the minimum quantity is reached, the company producing something for this will not stop there. So that'll be awesome. I can't wait to shoot that video. Thank you again. Please add me on Facebook and Instagram, Ampro Engineering on both. And if anybody out there does own my products, I really want to make a nice 50th episode. We're already at 41. I can't believe that. I wanted to make a 50th episode that was highlighting what you've done with my parts. Honestly, I want to see what other colors everybody's getting. I only get red and black. It's kind of irritating. But I want to see what colors you're buying, how you're using them, whether it's suspension upgrades or cosmetic upgrades. You know, I've got a grill, I've got a headlight set. I just really want to see. So if you are interested in being part of my 50th episode, you know, send me a message or post down here, and I will, you know, get back to you as soon as possible. I really want to make it kind of a cool thing, highlighting all of your vehicles and your upgrades. And it doesn't even have to be just my upgrades. If you've got some of my upgrades in your car, then you've got other stuff that you've made or other manufacturer stuff. Hey, I'd love to see it. So please let me know, and I think that'd be a really cool video. Thank you again, and before you go, please check out the band Blue Pinto. Their Facebook page is in the closing credits. See you next time.